has already covered the ethicist arguing to kill newborn babies and how it should be allowed to have infanticide up to the second or even third year. But it's just too shocking not to comment on. And this whole crew of bioethicists, what another false choice, what another grand deception of people who, you've got Julian Salvescu, who's argued that we should put lithium in the water. I know Alex talked about this too. Other bioethicists saying we should put lithium in the water. It's just another name they've spun for these eugenicists who want to sell us on the idea of killing humanity. And it's strange. Now, I want to ask Cindy Sheehan coming up not only about her own situation with the IRS coming after her for not paying taxes. She says she has openly declared she won't support the empire, and that's why she's not paying taxes. But I want to ask her about people like Michael Moore, who's built his entire image on being anti-war, about trying to rein in the same empire that we're all against, and yet he continues to just back Obama, won't say a word about Ron Paul, the only true anti-war candidate anywhere near the race, now doing shenanigans along with other top Democrats to prop up Rick Santorum and prolong the GOP vote, thinking it will benefit Obama. We'll get into that and more. Cindy Sheehan joining us on the other side, and we'll be back. I'm Aaron Dykes sitting in. Alex Jones may be calling back in as well. We are back at Infowars.com. You just heard from Alex. He's on the road, maybe popping in again. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in throughout the rest of the broadcast. Aaron Dykes here. And we are joined now by anti-war activist Cindy Sheehan. She really became emblematic as far back as 2004 and 2005 after her son Casey was killed in action in Iraq, and really has spoken out ever since against the war. And it's very interesting to also track how, as Obama came into office, so many other anti-war activists fell off, were not to be heard from, as they quietly allowed Obama to continue these wars, but not Cindy Sheehan. So we're going to talk to her about that and so many other issues as the IRS now comes after her for not paying back taxes. Headline: New American anti-war activist Cindy Sheehan refuses to pay taxes. Kurt Nemo's headline: Fed sick IRS attack dog on anti-war activist Cindy Sheehan. Cindy Sheehan, thanks for joining us on the broadcast.
Thank you, Aaron. It's nice to be on again.
It's great to talk to you.
It's nice to talk to you too. Thank you.
So give us your version of events in terms of the latest with the IRS coming after you and why you haven't paid taxes, because I know you've been upfront about that, and what you continue to fight for and what you've always been fighting for.
Well, when my son was killed in Iraq in 2004, I decided that my tax money had been part of the problem that contributed to the murder of my own son. And so I decided at that point that I was going to be a conscientious tax objector. And like you said, I've been very upfront about it. I've spoken about it very loudly and very clearly, and my reasons for doing so. And I've been doing this now for almost 8 years, and last Monday, I was eating dinner at a restaurant in my town with another activist from Berkeley, and this man walked in, or he walked up to our table, and at first I thought he was the manager because he had a tie on, because, a lot of times people recognize me and they just want to come up and say hi, and the guy goes, "Hi, Cindy, my name is Cornell," and I was like, "Oh, hello," and he said, "I'm from Channel 10 News," and I said, "What are you doing here in Vacaville? Are you just passing through?" And he said, "No, actually, I'm here to see you." And then my mind kind of jumps like, "What did I do now?" First of all, I'm just sitting here eating dinner, and secondly, I've been working on my radio show and my book that I just published. I haven't really been out publicly, doing protests or anything lately. It's been kind of a quiet year. And he said that he was there to talk to me about the lawsuit filed by Obama's Department of Justice against me. And I had no idea what he was talking about until he showed me the lawsuit. And it was filed by the U.S. attorney on behalf of the IRS. And I have had a couple meetings lately with the IRS. and I've told them that I'm not cooperating with them. And this lawsuit, apparently, because I still haven't been served the paperwork, it's amazing to me that Channel 10 News in Sacramento got this lawsuit before I even knew about it, let alone had a copy of my own. And so they're going to compel me to go into court, and they're going to try to force me to provide my records.
It's amazing. And what kind of response are you getting from the left as you continue to preach against the wars and demonstrate as Obama continues these wars? And many people support him in spite of that fact.
Well, it's been, last year, maybe the year before, we saw an increase of people on the so-called left speaking out against Obama and maybe organizing some protests and things like that. But now that it's an election year, they're starting to circle the wagons again. And I've had almost 100% support about this with tax issue. Doesn't matter, what political identification the person is. But, there are some people calling me, saying that I'm like a teabagger or I'm a Republican because I'm refusing to pay my taxes. I don't know. Republicans in general are opposed to the wars anyway, so...
Well, we'll get more into that on the other side. We've got the break coming up ahead, but that's what I'm wondering, if this has to do with the Obama re-election cycle. I'm sure the answer's there in the question. Cindy Sheehan will be back with us, and we'll take some of your calls as well. Stay tuned. Infowars.com. This is Infowars.com. Alex is barreling down the road right now, so I'm sitting in to finish off the broadcast. Our guest right now is Cindy Sheehan, and I would have to say what she practices is civil disobedience. It's an old thing basically coined by Henry David Thoreau, who said, among other things, if 1,000 men were not to pay their tax bills this year, that would not be a violent and bloody measure, as it would be to pay them and enable the state to commit violence and shed innocent blood. This, in fact, is the definition of a peaceful revolution, if any such is possible. He also said that under a government which imprisons unjustly, the true place for a just man is also in prison. He's one of the original tax protesters, and I guess it's people like Cindy Sheehan continuing in his tradition. Cindy.
Henry David Thoreau, of course, is one of my inspirations, and I studied him when I was in college, and I wish I would have paid closer attention to him back then, and then my son might still be alive today. But, what is, and we have to go forward. And I was just at a protest Saturday morning, early Saturday morning, started Friday night at 5 minutes to midnight. They launched an ICBM test missile from Vandenberg Air Force Base, and that cost $28 million. And some of us, I think there was about 17 of us, including Daniel Ellsberg and I, who we were, accused of trespassing onto the base. We wanted to stop the launch, and we were met with, what do you want to call it, a squadron of MPs who arrested us, who treated me very horribly. I was, bent over my back. I was bent backwards over the front of a female MP and, molested worse than I've ever been in any arrest. And then we were detained in handcuffs in their vans for a couple hours afterwards. So anytime something like this happens, anytime I witness the fact that, children were killed by drone bombs, by hellfire missiles in Pakistan or Afghanistan, or anything like that, my first thought, I think, is thank God I'm not paying for it. And I ask people questions about this. If you were given a choice to drop a hellfire missile on, 36 school children in northern Waziristan, or between going to prison, which one do you take? I would hope most people would take going to prison. But what we do when we pay our taxes is we funnel it through a middleman. We funnel it through the IRS. And most of the money for our income taxes goes towards paying for these current wars, paying for the military-industrial complex, paying debt to the banks for prior wars, and debt to the banks for these wars. So basically, it's mostly going towards the military-industrial complex. And I, for one, know as a tax resistor that eventually I could end up in prison, but I, like Henry David Thoreau, I'd rather be there than knowing that I was like a co-defendant with my government in killing innocent people. And they may bring me to court. They want to bring me to court in the middle of April. And I want to go to court. I don't know what date April 15th is on, but I want to go to court that day. And I want to make this a movement. And this is why they're coming after me, Aaron, and this is why they come after people of prominence, because I don't think the empire thinks they can intimidate me anymore. But what they want to do is they want to show other people what could happen to you if you decide to go the route that Cindy Sheehan goes, or that the National War Tax Resisting Coordinating Committee has done. All the prominent people who, are not afraid of them, who are not afraid to take stands like this, are the ones that they go after. And they could have gone after me during the Bush administration. I feel it is very significant that Obama's administration is persecuting me.
Well, that's the point. I don't think there was anything good about the Bush administration, but I think they realized that taking you down then through your protesting the taxes would only lend credence to your movement, would only build you up at a time when that national spotlight was on you. You were very iconic of the entire anti-war movement, but all that has somehow become silent under Obama. You've continued to protest, but so many others have stopped protesting against the war, haven't shown up to these rallies, haven't had their voices heard. What do you make of that? It's got to be a political retribution as Obama launches into his re-election cycle.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I think that Obama was, put in place by what I call the robber class, what, the Occupy movement calls the 1%, to further the agenda of the 1% or the robber class, and to do it in a way where there's very little opposition. Not only is there no opposition, but many of these people who would have been screaming the loudest if Bush or McCain had done these things are not screaming. They're supporting what he's doing. So, to me, it's scandalous and it's pitiful and pathetic that people care more about partisan politics than they do about, actual human beings. I wrote an article not too long ago saying it would probably be better for a Republican to be elected in 2012, because then at least these progressives would care about innocent people again. Or they would pretend to care about innocent people for political gain.
Yeah, and I want to bring up the point of Michael Moore, because he was very forward on being anti-war for years in the Bush administration. Then Obama came in. We saw all the signs that he was going to have the same advisors, that he was going to continue these wars, that he was going to keep contractors, change the names of what active duty troops were as he kept them in Iraq and Afghanistan, expanding to all these other countries. I believe it's still 9 war fronts we're on. And here he is today, again, making a splash in the news with his political shenanigans, saying he wants to make mischief under Operation Hilarity and back Santorum, thinking it's going to discredit the GOP race so Obama can get reelected. Well, you don't have to agree with Ron Paul if you're on the left on economic issues or a lot of things, but there's no doubting he's the only real anti-war candidate in the race, and I don't understand how Michael Moore can publicly say this and keep his supporters.
Well, because I think that it's all this paradigm, that these people were actually anti-Bush, they weren't anti-war, and so of course, Michael Moore has done a lot of good things, and he's not the only person in that side of the fence that is doing things like this. And like I said, I think it's pathetic and I think it's pitiful,